The pregnancy test wasn't supposed to change everything, but it did. Lucas Reed thought he'd survived the worst life could throw at him. Single fatherhood, crushing debt, impossible choices. But standing on his boss's doorstep at midnight, watching Victoria Lane hold 2 pink lines with trembling hands, he realized his real test was just beginning. One forbidden relationship. One powerful woman. One secret that could destroy them both. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this journey travels. The November rain fell like accusations against the windshield as Lucas Reed pulled into the circular driveway of Victoria Lane's estate. His truck, a battered Ford with rust creeping along the wheel wells, looked obscene parked between the manicured hedges and Italian stone fountains. He cut the engine and sat in the sudden silence, watching water streak down the glass, distorting the warm lights glowing from inside the house. His phone buzzed. Again. "Please, I need to see you. Tonight." Victoria never said please. She gave directives with the precision of a surgeon and the authority of someone who'd clawed her way to partial ownership of Meridian Design before her 40th birthday. She didn't beg. She didn't need anyone. That text had arrived 2 hours ago, just as Lucas was tucking Emma into bed. His 6-year-old daughter had pressed her favorite stuffed rabbit into his hands and made him promise, cross his heart, that he'd be there when she woke up. Mrs. Chen from 3B had agreed to listen for Emma through the thin apartment walls, the way she'd done a dozen times since Lucas's ex-wife had decided motherhood wasn't for her 3 years ago. Lucas pulled his jacket tighter against the cold and stepped out into the rain. The front door opened before he reached it. Victoria stood in the threshold, backlit by the soft glow of her foyer chandelier. She wore dark jeans and a cream sweater, casual clothes that somehow looked expensive on her frame. Her honey blonde hair was pulled back in a loose knot, and her face, usually composed in boardroom perfection, looked pale, fragile. "Come in," she said quietly. "You're getting soaked." Lucas stepped inside, his work boots leaving wet prints on marble that probably cost more than his monthly rent. He'd been here before. Late nights when the design deadlines blurred into dawn, when strategy sessions turned into something neither of them could name. They'd been careful, so careful. Oh, Victoria closed the door with a soft click that seemed to seal them inside a confession booth. "What's wrong?" Lucas asked, studying her face. "Your text." She held up one hand, cutting him off. Then she reached into her pocket and placed something on the entry table between them. A pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. The world tilted sideways. Lucas heard his own breathing, too loud in the cathedral ceiling quiet of her house. He looked from the test to Victoria's face, searching for some sign that this was a mistake, a false positive, anything but what those 2 lines meant. "It's mine," Lucas said. Not a question, a statement that tasted like fear and wonder and absolute catastrophe. "Right?" Victoria's gray eyes met his without flinching. She'd negotiated million-dollar contracts without breaking a sweat, but now her hands gripped the edge of the table. "There's no one else," she said, her voice low and controlled despite the tremor underneath. "There hasn't been anyone else in over a year." Lucas felt his knees go weak. He'd been 22 when Emma was born, barely more than a kid himself, unprepared for the weight of a life depending on him. He was 28 now, still scraping by, still choosing between fixing the truck and buying Emma new shoes that actually fit. Still showing up at Meridian Design every day to a job that barely covered childcare and kept them one missed paycheck away from eviction. And Victoria, she was his boss. Not just his supervisor, but a shareholder in the company. Their relationship, whatever it was, violated every employee handbook policy ever written. They'd both known it. They'd done it anyway, meeting in shadows and stolen hours, pretending the morning wouldn't come. "Say something," Victoria whispered. Lucas dragged his hand through his wet hair. How far along?" 6 weeks, maybe 7. I have an appointment at the clinic tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. She paused, and for the first time since he'd known her, she looked uncertain, vulnerable. "I need to know if you're coming with me." It wasn't fair that she was asking. It wasn't fair that his answer mattered. But Lucas had learned a long time ago that life didn't deal in fair. He thought of Emma, asleep in their cramped one-bedroom apartment with its peeling paint and temperamental heating. He thought of the careful budget he maintained, the spreadsheet that mapped every dollar, every sacrifice. He thought of the dreams he'd deferred, graduate school, travel, a life that wasn't measured in survival. Then he thought of Victoria's hand in his during those late nights, the way she listened when he talked about Emma, the quiet understanding that had grown between them like something real and terrifying. "What do you want to do?" he asked carefully. Victoria's jaw tightened. "Don't do that. Don't make this my decision alone." "I'm not—" Lucas stopped, recalibrated. "I'm asking what you want, not what's practical or smart or safe for your career. What do you want?" She looked away toward the darkened living room where shadows pooled in expensive corners. "I'm 39 years old. I've built my career on being ruthless and focused. I've never wanted children because I've never wanted to compromise." Her voice dropped. "But I took that test 3 times, and every time I saw those lines, I felt something I didn't expect." "What?" "Hope." The word hung between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Lucas moved closer, close enough to see the faint mascara smudged beneath her eyes, evidence that she'd been crying before he arrived. He'd never seen Victoria Lane cry. He'd seen her demolish competitors in pitch meetings and fire executives without blinking, but he'd never seen her cry. "I'll be there tomorrow," he said. 9 o'clock. Relief flickered across her face so quickly he almost missed it. "This is going to get complicated." "It's already complicated." "Lucas," she reached for his arm, then stopped herself, old habits dying hard. "If this gets out at work, they'll destroy us. You know that. Harold's been circling like a shark for months, waiting for me to make a mistake." Harold Crane, Executive Vice President and Victoria's primary rival for control of Meridian's strategic direction. Lucas had watched him operate, smooth, ambitious, patient as a predator. Harold collected weaknesses the way other people collected art. "We've been careful," Lucas said, though the words felt hollow now. Careful hadn't been enough. Victoria laughed, a bitter sound. "Careful was before. This," she gestured toward the test, "this is evidence. This is vulnerability on a stick." "Then we keep it quiet, at least until we figure out what we're doing. And if we decide to—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Lucas knew what she was asking. He'd been there before, standing in a different clinic with a different woman, facing a different impossible choice. That time, Sarah had wanted to walk away. He'd begged her to stay, and for 3 years she'd tried before finally leaving them both. "Whatever we decide," Lucas said firmly, "we decide together. Deal?" Victoria studied him like she was seeing him clearly for the first time, not as her employee, not as her secret, but as a partner in something that terrified them both. "Deal," she whispered. "Yeah." The rain had stopped by the time Lucas drove home, but the street still gleamed black under the sodium lights. He parked in his building's cramped lot and climbed the stairs to 3B, where Mrs. Chen cracked her door open at his knock. "She's sleeping good," the old woman said in her accented English, smiling. "Such a sweet girl. You're lucky." "I know," Lucas said, and meant it. Inside his apartment, he checked on Emma. She was sprawled across her twin bed, rabbit clutched tight, her dark hair fanned across the pillow. She had his eyes, brown and serious, and her mother's nose. She was the best thing he'd ever made, even by accident. Lucas sat on the edge of her bed and watched her breathe. 6 years old. 1st grade. She loved dinosaurs and mac and cheese and asking impossible questions about stars. She deserved stability. She deserved a father who didn't disappear at midnight to deal with catastrophes. She deserved better than what he could give her. His phone buzzed. "Victoria. Thank you for coming. I know it wasn't easy." Lucas typed back, "Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be hard." Victoria. "Lucas?" Lucas. "Yeah?" Victoria. "I'm scared." He stared at those 2 words from a woman who'd never admitted fear. He thought about the test on her entry table, the lines that meant everything was about to change. Lucas. "Me too. But we'll figure it out." He hoped that was true. Talk. Monday morning arrived too fast. Lucas dropped Emma at elementary school, watching her run toward her friends with her dinosaur backpack bouncing. She turned and waved, and he waved back, his chest tight with love and fear in equal measure. At Meridian Design, the office tower gleamed in the weak November sun, 30 floors of glass and ambition. Lucas parked in the employee garage and took the elevator to the 12th floor, where the design department sprawled in open-concept modernity. Sleek desks, exposed brick, pendant lights that cost more than his truck. He was good at his work. Better than good. His residential designs had won awards, attracted high-profile clients. But he was still the guy who'd started in the mailroom. Still the single dad who left exactly at 5 to pick up his kid. Still replaceable. Victoria's office was on the 20th floor, in the executive wing where the carpet got thicker and the silence got heavier. Lucas had been up there dozens of times for meetings, presentations, reviews, never for what he was about to do. His desk phone rang at 8:30. "Lucas Reed," he answered. "It's me." Victoria's voice was crisp, professional. "Can you bring the Greenfield renderings to my office? I want to review them before the client call." Translation: "We need to talk before the appointment." "On my way," Lucas said. He grabbed a folder, actually containing the Greenfield project, and headed for the elevator. His heart hammered against his ribs. This was stupid. They were being reckless. Anyone could see them. Anyone could wonder why Victoria needed him specifically. But he went anyway. The 20th floor was quieter, more refined. Executive assistants worked behind curved desks, their expressions carefully neutral. Lucas nodded to them and knocked on Victoria's door. "Come in." She was standing by her window wall, looking out over the city. Her office was all clean lines and expensive art, a space designed to intimidate. She wore a charcoal suit, her armor back in place. Lucas closed the door. "Are you ready?" Victoria asked without turning around. "I took a half day for a doctor's appointment. My supervisor didn't ask questions." "Good." She finally looked at him. "I need you to understand something. Once we walk into that clinic together, there's a chance someone sees us. Someone recognizes me, and if that happens, I know the risks. Do you?" Victoria moved closer, her voice dropping. "Because I've spent 15 years building my position here. I fought for every inch of respect, every seat at the table. And if Harold gets even a whisper that I'm involved with an employee, he'll weaponize it," Lucas finished. "I know. I'm not stupid, Victoria. I never said you were." Her expression softened slightly. "I'm just trying to protect you. Maybe I can protect myself." They stood there, 2 feet apart, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. Lucas wanted to reach for her, to offer some kind of comfort, but the office walls had cameras, sensors, corporate eyes everywhere. 9 o'clock, Victoria said finally. "There's a clinic on Riverside. Park in the visitor lot, not the main entrance." "I'll be there." The clinic was a low brick building tucked between a pharmacy and a coffee shop, discreet and efficient. Lucas arrived 10 minutes early and waited in his truck, watching the entrance. Victoria pulled up in her silver Mercedes at exactly 9 o'clock. She'd changed into jeans and a simple jacket, her hair down, trying to look anonymous. They met at the door without speaking and signed in under names that felt like lies. The waiting room was painted in calming blues with magazines nobody read. A young couple sat across from them, holding hands and whispering. An older woman filled out paperwork with steady hands. Lucas felt like an imposter, a man who'd stumbled into someone else's crisis. "Victoria Lane?" A nurse in purple scrubs smiled from the doorway. Victoria stood, and Lucas stood with her. The nurse's eyes flickered between them. "And you are?" "He's with me," Victoria said firmly. They followed her down a hallway that smelled like antiseptic and lavender, into a small exam room with an ultrasound machine and a paper-covered table. "The doctor will be in shortly," the nurse said. "You can change into the gown if you'd like." When they were alone, Victoria sat on the table and pressed her palms against her thighs. Lucas had seen her command boardrooms full of hostile executives, but now she looked small. "I don't know what I'm hoping to see," she admitted quietly. Lucas stood beside the table. "That's okay. We don't have to know yet." A knock, and then Dr. Sarah Chen, no relation to his neighbor, entered with a tablet and a kind smile. She was maybe 50, with calm eyes and steady hands. "Good morning. Victoria, is it?" She glanced at Lucas. "And you're the father?" The word hit Lucas like a physical thing. Father. He already was one, but hearing it applied to this situation, this person he couldn't see yet, made it viscerally real. "Yes," he said. "Wonderful. Let's take a look and see how far along we are." Dr. Chen prepared the ultrasound equipment with practiced efficiency. "This might be a bit cold." Victoria lay back and lifted her shirt. Lucas saw the smooth expanse of her stomach, so normal, so unchanged. How could something so world-altering leave no mark yet? The ultrasound screen flickered to life. Gray shapes, shadows, nothing Lucas could interpret. Dr. Chen moved the wand with gentle pressure, her eyes on the screen. "There we go. Based on what I'm seeing, you're about 7 weeks along. See this here?" She pointed to a small bean-shaped shadow. "That's your baby." Lucas stopped breathing. Victoria's hand found his wrist. Not his hand, but his wrist, gripping tight like she needed an anchor. "And here," Dr. Chen adjusted the image. "This is the heartbeat." A tiny flutter appeared on screen, rapid and determined, a pulse of light in the grainy gray. Evidence of life that didn't exist 7 weeks ago, life that depended on choices they hadn't made yet. Lucas felt Victoria's grip tighten on his wrist, felt her pulse racing against his skin. "Everything looks healthy," Dr. Chen continued. "Heart rate is good. Size is appropriate for 7 weeks. Do you have any questions?" Victoria's voice came out rough. "What happens next?" Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral, professional. "That depends on what you want to happen. You have options. We can discuss them all, or I can give you materials to review at home. There's no rush to decide today." "How long do we have?" Lucas asked. "To decide?" "For most options, you have time, but the sooner you know what you want, the easier the process becomes, whatever you choose." Victoria nodded slowly. Can we have a minute?" "Of course, I'll be right outside." The door clicked shut, and they were alone with the frozen image on the screen. That tiny flutter, that impossible heartbeat. Lucas pulled a chair close to the exam table and sat down. He didn't let go of Victoria's wrist. "Talk to me," he said quietly. Victoria stared at the ultrasound screen. "I've made 100 difficult decisions in my career, fired people, killed projects, walked away from opportunities that could have made millions. I've never hesitated." "This isn't business." "No." Her voice cracked slightly. "It's not." "What do you feel when you look at that screen?" Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, the words came slowly, like she was discovering them as she said them. "I feel terrified. I feel like my entire life is about to derail. I feel like I'm about to lose everything I've worked for." She paused. "But I also feel like maybe I've been working for the wrong things." Lucas understood. He'd felt the same way the day Emma was born, like his dreams were ending and beginning simultaneously. "I can't tell you what to choose," he said, "but I can tell you that whatever you choose, I'm here. If you want to do this, we figure it out together. If you don't, I'll be there for that too. No judgment, no pressure." "You say that now." "I mean it." Victoria finally looked away from the screen, meeting his eyes. "I'm 39 years old. I've never even held a baby. I work 70 hours a week. I don't know the first thing about being a mother. I didn't know anything about being a father. Emma taught me. That's different. She gestured vaguely. "You're good at this. You're patient and kind, and you know how to love people." "You think I don't see you?" Lucas leaned closer. "You think I don't know you spent 3 weeks personally reviewing every contractor bid for the Children's Hospital project because you wanted to make sure it was perfect? You think I don't notice how you remember everyone's birthday, everyone's kids' names? That's business. That's strategy." "Is it?" Lucas challenged. "Or is it you caring about people and not knowing how to admit it?" Victoria's eyes filled with tears. She blinked them back furiously. "I don't cry," she said. "You're allowed to." "If I start, I won't stop." Lucas stood and gently pulled her up from the table, wrapped his arms around her. Victoria stiffened, then slowly, carefully, let herself lean into him. her forehead pressed against his shoulder. "What if I'm terrible at this?" she whispered. "What if you're not?" They stood like that, holding each other in the small exam room with the ultrasound screen still showing that impossible flutter. Lucas felt the tremor run through Victoria's body, felt her fighting against vulnerability the way she'd been fighting her whole life. The door opened. They jumped apart. Dr. Chen stopped in the doorway, her expression shifting from kind to carefully neutral. But she wasn't alone. Behind her stood Harold Crane. He was dressed in a business suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, his smile pleasant and utterly false. His eyes moved from Victoria to Lucas, from Lucas to the ultrasound screen, absorbing everything in one calculated glance. "Victoria," Harold said smoothly, "what a surprise. I was here for my quarterly physical when I thought I recognized your car outside." It was a lie. Lucas knew it instantly. Harold didn't do anything by coincidence. He'd followed them, or had them followed. He'd known. Victoria's face became a mask, every emotion locked away behind professional ice. "Harold, I didn't realize this was your clinic. It's not, usually, but my regular doctor's office is being renovated." Harold's gaze slid to Lucas, calculating. "Reed, isn't it? From design?" "Lucas Reed," Lucas said evenly, refusing to show fear. "Of course, you did that Greenfield project. Excellent work." Harold's smile sharpened. "I hope everything's all right. Not an emergency, I hope?" The threat was clear. "I know what I'm seeing. I know what this means. And I'm going to use it." Dr. Chen looked between them, sensing the tension but bound by patient confidentiality. "If you'll excuse me, I need to—" "Of course, doctor," Harold said. "I was just leaving. Victoria, I'll see you at Thursday's board meeting?" "I'll be there." Harold nodded to Lucas, a gesture that somehow conveyed both dismissal and warning, and walked away down the hall. The moment he was gone, Victoria's mask cracked. "Fuck." Dr. Chen closed the door quietly. "I won't ask what that was about, but I will remind you that everything that happens in this clinic is completely confidential. Whatever that man thinks he saw, I cannot and will not confirm anything to anyone." "Thank you," Victoria said, but her voice was hollow. They left the clinic separately, Victoria first, then Lucas 10 minutes later. But the damage was done. Harold knew. And Harold Crane didn't keep secrets. He weaponized them. Lucas made it back to Meridian by noon, signing in like nothing had happened, but his hand shook as he logged into his computer. His phone buzzed. "Victoria." "My office. Now." He found her pacing behind her desk, still wearing the jeans and jacket from the clinic. Her professional armor was gone, replaced by raw anger. "He's going to HR," Victoria said the moment Lucas closed the door. "I don't know when, but he will. And when he does, they'll investigate," Lucas finished. "They'll find evidence. Emails, meeting logs, security footage. We haven't done anything at work. We've been careful about that. Doesn't matter. I report to you indirectly. That's enough." Lucas sank into one of her chairs. "They'll say you showed favoritism. They'll question every project I worked on, every promotion." "They'll force me to fire you," Victoria said quietly. "Or I'll have to recuse myself from anything involving you, which amounts to the same thing." Lucas looked at her. "Then we come clean first." "Are you insane? If we control the narrative, there is no controlling this narrative." Victoria's voice rose. "I'm a female executive in a male-dominated company. I spent 15 years proving I wasn't sleeping my way to the top. And now," she laughed bitterly, "now I actually did. Or that's how they'll see it. You didn't sleep your way anywhere. You earned every bit of your position. You think facts matter? You think Harold's going to let facts get in the way of a good weapon?" Victoria pressed her hands to her face. "I'm so stupid. I should have known better. I should have been smarter." "Don't," Lucas said firmly. "Don't do that to yourself." "Do what?" "Regret this. Regret us." He stood, moving closer. "Whatever else happens, I don't regret you." Victoria looked at him with eyes full of pain and fear and something else he couldn't name. "You should. Because when this blows up, and it will blow up, you're going to lose your job. And I know what that means for you and Emma." Lucas's blood ran cold. "Leave her out of this. She's already in it. Your daughter depends on your income, your insurance. If you lose this job, I'll find another."
With a black mark from Meridian? With whispers about why you were really let go? Victoria shook her head. Harold will make sure you're unhireable. That's how he operates. Lucas wanted to argue, but she was right. He'd seen Harold ruin careers before, always with plausible deniability, always with clean hands. Then what do we do? Lucas asked. Victoria was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was steady but hollow. I think we need to end this, before it gets worse. And what? Us, whatever we are. She wouldn't meet his eyes. If we stop now, if I transfer you to a different department, if we create distance, that doesn't erase what Harold saw. No, but it limits the damage. Victoria finally looked at him. I can say it was a brief lapse in judgment that ended immediately. You can transfer to a different division. We pretend today never happened. And the baby? Victoria flinched. I'll handle that separately, privately. Lucas felt something crack inside his chest. You're saying you'll do this alone. I'm saying I won't let you destroy your life for a mistake. Don't call it that. What else is it? Victoria's voice turned sharp, defensive. We were reckless. We were stupid. And now a child, Emma, is going to suffer because her father couldn't keep his relationship professional. The words hit like punches. Lucas stepped back. Is that really what you think? He asked quietly. That this was just stupidity? Victoria closed her eyes. I don't know what I think anymore. Lucas stood there, looking at this woman he'd spent months getting to know in stolen hours and careful conversations. He'd seen her brilliance, her drive, her carefully hidden vulnerability. He'd thought he understood her. Maybe he'd been wrong. Okay, Lucas said finally. If that's what you want. It's not about what I want. Yes, it is. Lucas moved to the door. You're scared, so you're pushing me away. I get it. But don't pretend this is about protecting me or Emma. This is about you protecting yourself. That's not fair. No, Lucas agreed. It's not. He left before she could respond, walking through the executive floor with his heart pounding and his future crumbling. By the time he reached his desk, an email was waiting. From hr@meridiandesign.com. Subject: Schedule review requested meeting to discuss recent project assignments and departmental fit. Please confirm availability for Thursday, 2 p.m. It was already starting. Lucas deleted the email and got back to work, because that's what single fathers did. They kept going even when the world fell apart around them. But that night, lying in his narrow bed in his cramped apartment with Emma asleep in the next room, Lucas stared at the ceiling and wondered if loving Victoria Lane had been the best mistake or the worst one he'd ever made. His phone buzzed. Victoria. I'm sorry. Lucas. For what? Victoria. For being a coward. He stared at those words for a long time before responding. Lucas. You're the bravest person I know. You're just scared. There's a difference. Victoria. What are you going to do? Lucas. Whatever I have to. For Emma. For you. For that heartbeat on the screen. Victoria. Even if it costs you everything? Lucas thought about his daughter sleeping in the next room. He thought about Victoria standing alone in her big house. He thought about a tiny flutter on an ultrasound screen, a life that didn't ask to be created but existed anyway. Lucas. Some things are worth the cost. The response took a long time to come. Victoria. The appointment is Thursday at 2 p.m., the same time as your HR meeting. Lucas. I'll reschedule. Victoria. Lucas. Lucas. I'll be there. Whatever you decide, I'll be there. He turned off his phone before she could argue, before she could push him away again. Because Lucas Reed had learned a long time ago that showing up was the only promise that really mattered, and tomorrow he'd show up again, even if it destroyed him. Thursday morning arrived with gray skies that matched Lucas's mood. He'd spent 3 sleepless nights running scenarios in his head, each one ending worse than the last. Emma had noticed something was wrong. She'd climbed into his lap during breakfast and pressed her small hand against his cheek. You're sad, Daddy, she'd said with the brutal honesty of 6-year-olds. Just tired, baby girl, he'd lied, kissing her forehead.
Now standing in front of his bathroom mirror while Emma brushed her teeth beside him, Lucas looked at his reflection and barely recognized the man staring back. When had the shadows under his eyes gotten so dark? When had that line appeared between his eyebrows? "Daddy, you're staring again," Emma said, foam dripping from her mouth. "Sorry, kiddo, just thinking." "About what?" "About how I might lose my job today. About how your life might get harder because I fell in love with someone I shouldn't have. About how there's a heartbeat on an ultrasound screen that I can't stop thinking about. About how much I love you," Lucas said instead, which was also true. Emma grinned, rinsed her mouth, and threw her arms around his waist. "Love you too, Daddy. Can we have pancakes for dinner?" "Absolutely." If he still had a job by dinner time. Lucas dropped Emma at school, watching her run toward the playground where her best friend Maya waited. They squealed and hugged like they hadn't seen each other in years instead of since yesterday. Simple joy. Uncomplicated friendship. Lucas envied them. At Meridian Design, the morning passed in surreal slow motion. Lucas worked on the Henderson project, tweaking elevations and selecting finishes, pretending his career wasn't about to implode at 2 o'clock. His coworker James stopped by his desk around 11. "Hey, you okay? You look like hell." "Didn't sleep great," Lucas said. "Emma sick?" "No, she's fine, just life stuff." James nodded sympathetically. He had 3 kids of his own, understood the constant low-grade stress of single parenthood. "Well, hang in there. You coming to the team lunch next week?" "Maybe. I'll let you know." After James left, Lucas checked his phone. Nothing from Victoria since their text exchange Tuesday night. The silence felt loaded, dangerous. He wondered if she was regretting her moment of vulnerability, rebuilding the walls he'd watched crack in that exam room. At 1:30, Lucas's desk phone rang. Lucas Reed. "Mr. Reed, this is Jennifer from HR. I'm calling to confirm your 2 o'clock meeting." Lucas's stomach dropped. "Actually, I need to reschedule. I'm afraid this meeting has been marked as mandatory by executive request. Is there a conflict?" Executive request. That meant Harold had escalated this, pushed it through channels, made sure Lucas couldn't dodge it. "No," Lucas said, his jaw tight. "No conflict. I'll be there." He hung up and immediately texted Victoria. "Lucas, they won't let me reschedule. HR says it's mandatory." The reply came fast. Victoria, "I know. Harold's moving faster than I expected." Lucas, "What about the appointment?" Victoria, "I'll go alone. It's fine." Lucas, "It's not fine." Victoria, "Lucas, you can't throw away your job for this. For me." Lucas stared at his phone, at those words that tried so hard to push him away while asking him to stay. He thought about that flutter on the ultrasound screen, about Victoria's hand gripping his wrist, about the fear in her eyes that she'd tried so hard to hide. He thought about Emma, asleep with her rabbit, trusting him to be there when she woke up. Then he thought about what kind of man he wanted to be when she looked back at this moment years from now. Lucas, "I'm coming. Send me the address." Victoria, "Don't be stupid." Lucas, "Too late." He didn't wait for her response. Instead, he stood from his desk, grabbed his jacket, and walked straight to the HR wing on the 15th floor. Jennifer looked up from her computer as he approached, her professional smile already in place. "Mr. Reed, you're early. I need to speak with whoever's running this meeting. Now." Jennifer's smile faltered. "I'm not sure it's important." She studied him for a moment, then picked up her phone. "Let me check." 2 minutes later, Lucas sat across from Patricia Hollis, Meridian's Director of Human Resources. She was 50-something with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen every workplace drama imaginable. Her office was neat, impersonal, designed to make employees feel exposed. "Mr. Reed," Patricia said, folding her hands on her desk, "I understand you wanted to speak before our scheduled meeting. I need to reschedule. It's a medical emergency." Patricia's expression didn't change. "Your own emergency or a family matter?" Lucas hesitated. The lie would be easier. Emma's sick, car accident, anything but the truth. But lies had a way of multiplying, of building walls between people until they couldn't find each other anymore. Someone I care about has a medical appointment. I need to be there. I see. And this person can't reschedule? No. And you can't send someone else to support them? Lucas met her eyes directly. There is no one else. Patricia leaned back in her chair, her expression unreadable. Mr. Reed, I'm going to be frank with you. This meeting was requested by Executive Vice President Crane regarding concerns about workplace relationships and professional conduct. Given that context, your timing is unfortunate. So Harold had already poisoned the well. Of course he had. What exactly is he claiming? Lucas asked. I can't discuss the specifics before our meeting, but I will say that refusing to attend a mandatory HR meeting is grounds for disciplinary action. And if I go anyway? To the appointment? Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then we'll proceed without you and make our recommendations based on available information, which rarely works in the employee's favor. It was a threat wrapped in professional courtesy. Show up, defend yourself, maybe save your job, or choose Victoria and lose everything. Lucas stood. Then I guess you'll have to proceed without me. Mr. Reed, my daughter's teacher has my emergency contact information if you need to reach me. He walked out before Patricia could respond, before he could second-guess himself, before fear could override the certainty burning in his chest. He took the elevator down to the parking garage, climbed into his truck, and drove toward the address Victoria had finally sent. The clinic was on the north side, tucked between a Starbucks and a dental office in a medical plaza. Lucas parked and checked his phone. 3 missed calls from work. A text from Jennifer asking him to reconsider. Nothing from Victoria. He found her in the waiting room, sitting alone in the corner with her purse clutched in her lap. She wore sunglasses despite being indoors, her hair pulled back in a severe ponytail. When she saw him walk in, her mouth opened in shock. "What are you doing here?" Victoria hissed as he sat beside her. "What does it look like?" "Lucas, your meeting happened without me." Victoria's face went pale. "You didn't." "I did." "You idiot! You beautiful, stupid—" She stopped, pressed her hand to her mouth. "Do you have any idea what you just did?" "Yeah, I chose you." "I didn't ask you to choose me." "I know." They sat there, 2 people in a waiting room full of strangers, having an argument in fierce whispers while a daytime talk show played on the television. Nobody watched. "They're going to fire you," Victoria said finally. "Probably. Emma needs your insurance, your income." "I know." "Then why—" Lucas turned to face her fully. "Because that heartbeat on the screen doesn't get a choice about being here. But I do. And I choose to show up." Victoria's eyes filled with tears behind her sunglasses. "You're making this so much harder." "Good. It should be hard. Important things are always hard." Before Victoria could respond, a nurse appeared in the doorway. "Victoria Lane?" Victoria stood on shaky legs. Lucas stood with her, and when she didn't tell him not to, he took it as permission. They followed the nurse down a familiar hallway into a different exam room, this one set up for counseling rather than examination. A woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a gentle smile stood to greet them. "Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Rachel Morrison. I'll be talking with you today about your options and answering any questions you might have." They sat in chairs that were meant to be comfortable but somehow weren't. "Doctor." Morrison pulled up a file on her tablet and began walking them through information Lucas already knew from Emma's pregnancy. Timelines, procedures, resources. She spoke with practiced neutrality, never steering them toward any particular choice. "The most important thing," Dr. Morrison said, "is that you both feel informed and supported in whatever decision you make. There's no right or wrong answer, only what's right for you and your circumstances." "What if our circumstances are a mess?" Victoria asked quietly. Dr. Morrison smiled. "Then you're like most people who sit in these chairs. Very few pregnancies happen in perfect conditions." "What about age?" Victoria asked. "I'm 39. The risks are higher than they would be at 29, yes, but plenty of women have healthy pregnancies in their late 30s and early 40s. We'd monitor you more closely, run additional tests, But age alone isn't a reason not to continue if that's what you want. Victoria nodded, processing. What about support? Lucas asked. What resources exist for single parents? Dr. Morrison's gaze moved between them. Are you anticipating single parenthood? It's complicated, Victoria said. Most relationships are. Dr. Morrison leaned forward slightly. Can I offer some perspective from 15 years of doing this work? They both nodded. The people who struggle most aren't the ones with limited resources or complicated situations. They're the ones who try to do it alone out of pride or fear. The ones who succeed, regardless of their circumstances, are the ones who let people help them. She paused. You two came in here together. That's already something. Victoria's hand found Lucas's on the armrest between them. Her fingers were cold. We need to decide by when, Victoria asked. You have time, but the sooner you know what you want, the more options remain available. I'd recommend making a decision within the next 2 weeks if possible. 2 weeks. 14 days to decide the shape of the rest of their lives. After the appointment, they stood in the parking lot as rain began to fall. Victoria had removed her sunglasses, and Lucas could see she'd been crying. You shouldn't have come, she said. I know. Your job is probably gone already. Might as well be gone for something that matters. Victoria laughed, a broken sound. How are you so calm about this? I'm not. I'm terrified. But I learned with Emma that sometimes you just have to jump and figure out the parachute on the way down. That's insane. Yeah, but it's also the only way I know how to live. Victoria looked at him for a long moment, rain dotting her jacket. What if I can't do this? What if I'm a terrible mother? What if you're not? You keep saying that. Because I believe it. Lucas stepped closer. I've watched you, Victoria. I've seen how you care about your work, your team, how you remember details about people's lives, how you fight for what you believe in. That's not the same as raising a child. No, it's not. But it's the foundation. Everything else can be learned. Victoria wiped at her eyes. I don't cry. I hate crying. You keep saying that too. Because it's true. But even as she said it, more tears fell. I've spent my whole life building walls, Lucas, being strong, being unbreakable, and now everything's breaking, and I don't know how to stop it. Lucas pulled her into his arms, right there in the parking lot where anyone could see. Let them see. Let Harold and HR and the whole damn company see. Some things were more important than optics. You don't stop it, he said into her hair. You let it break, and then you build something new from the pieces. They stood like that while the rain picked up, two people holding each other against the storm, until Victoria's phone rang. She pulled back to check it, and her expression shifted from vulnerable to hardened in an instant. It's my assistant. I need to take this. Lucas nodded and stepped away while Victoria answered. Yes? When? I see. Tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes. She ended the call and looked at Lucas with hollow eyes. Emergency board meeting. Harold's calling for a review of executive conduct policies. He's moving fast. He's going for the kill while he thinks I'm vulnerable. Victoria's jaw set. He doesn't know me very well. What are you going to do? My job, what I've always done. She started toward her car, then stopped. Lucas, about today? Don't apologize for letting me be here. I wasn't going to. Victoria's eyes softened. I was going to say thank you. She drove away, leaving Lucas standing in the rain, unemployed and uncertain but somehow more sure of himself than he'd been in years. His phone rang. Patricia Hollis. Mr. Reed, we need to discuss. I know. I'm on my way. Back at Meridian, Lucas went straight to HR. Patricia sat across from him with a file folder thick with evidence he hadn't seen yet. Mr. Reed, missing a mandatory meeting is a serious offense. I understand. Do you want to explain your decision? Lucas thought about lying, about obfuscating, about protecting himself the way he'd been taught. Instead, he told the truth. Someone I care about needed me. I chose to be there. Patricia opened the folder. Are you aware of Meridian's policy regarding relationships between employees at different levels of authority? I am. And are you currently in such a relationship? This was it. The moment where he could save himself, deny everything, force Harold to prove allegations that might be impossible to substantiate. But Lucas thought about Victoria standing alone in a boardroom, fighting for her career while carrying a secret that could destroy them both. He thought about Emma learning from his choices. He thought about the kind of man he wanted to be. "I have feelings for someone above me in the company hierarchy," Lucas said carefully. "But we've maintained professional boundaries at work. We've never used company resources for personal communication. I've never received favorable treatment in project assignments or promotions." "That's not for you to determine." "No, ma'am, it's not. But it's the truth." Patricia made notes. "Mr. Reed, I'm going to be direct with you. We have security footage of you entering and exiting Victoria Lane's office multiple times after hours. We have reports from other employees about perceived closeness. And we have testimony from Executive Vice President Crane regarding a meeting at a medical facility." Lucas's blood ran cold. That testimony is based on assumptions. Nevertheless, it exists, and combined with the other evidence, it paints a picture of inappropriate conduct. Patricia closed the folder. "I'm placing you on administrative leave pending full investigation. You'll maintain your salary for 2 weeks while we review the matter. After that, we'll make a determination about your future at Meridian." "Administrative leave means I can't come to the office." "Correct." "Can't access my files or work on projects." "Correct." "And everyone will assume I'm guilty." Patricia's expression didn't change. "I can't control what people assume. But I can tell you that this process will be fair and thorough." Lucas stood. "And Victoria? Ms. Lane? I can't discuss other employees with you." "Of course not." Lucas gathered his things from his desk under the eyes of curious coworkers, packed his laptop and personal items into a box, and left Meridian Design at 3:15 on a Thursday afternoon, possibly for the last time. He picked Emma up early from aftercare, taking her for ice cream despite the rain because he needed to see her smile. She chattered about her day. Maya's loose tooth, the frog they found on the playground, the spelling test she aced. Normal things. Good things. "Can we call Miss Victoria tonight?" Emma asked around a mouthful of chocolate chip. Lucas's heart stopped. "What?" "Miss Victoria, from your work. She gave me that cool pencil set, remember? I want to show her my spelling test." "Right." Victoria had attended the company family day 3 months ago, spent 20 minutes talking to Emma about dinosaurs and drawing. Emma had been smitten with the pretty lady who knows about pterodactyls. "Maybe not tonight, baby girl. She's probably busy." "She's always busy. You said that's why she doesn't have kids." Lucas had said that, trying to explain why Victoria worked so much. Now the words felt like prophecy and accusation. "We'll see," Lucas said, the parental non-answer that bought time. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Lucas sat in his dark living room and scrolled through his phone. Messages from coworkers asking if he was okay. An email from James saying whatever happened. Lucas had his support. Nothing from Victoria. At 10:30, his phone finally buzzed. Victoria. "Are you awake?" Lucas. "Yeah, Victoria." "Can I call?" Instead of answering, Lucas called her. She picked up on the first ring. "Hi," Victoria said, her voice exhausted. "Hi. How was the board meeting?" "Brutal. Harold presented a whole proposal about tightening conduct policies, supposedly to protect the company's reputation." She laughed bitterly. "Everyone knows it's aimed at me." "What happened?" "I fought back, reminded them that I've brought in $40 million in revenue over 5 years, that our design division has grown 30% under my leadership, that I've never had a single HR complaint until this week." And they tabled Harold's proposal pending the investigation, which means I bought time, but that's all. Lucas heard ice clinking against glass. Victoria was drinking. "How much have you had?" he asked gently. "Not enough to forget today. Too much to drive." She paused. "I'm scared, Lucas." "I know." "No, I mean really scared. Not about my job or my reputation. About this." He heard her voice crack. "About becoming a mother when I don't know how. About fucking up a child the way my parents fucked me up." Lucas had never heard her talk about her family. "What happened with your parents?" Nothing dramatic, no abuse, no trauma, just two very successful people who were excellent at their careers and terrible at being parents. I was raised by nannies and boarding schools. I saw my mother maybe 3 hours a week. Victoria's voice went flat. She told me on my 18th birthday that having me was the biggest mistake of her career, that she should have chosen differently. Jesus, Victoria. So you see, it's genetic. This inability to connect, to love properly. I'm going to do the same thing to this baby. I'm going to resent it for existing, for needing me, for derailing my perfect life. No, you won't. How do you know? Because you're terrified of becoming your mother. That fear? That's the difference. That's what breaks the cycle. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I want to believe you. Then believe me. I don't know how to do this, Lucas. Any of this. Neither did I. But you figure it out, one day at a time, one choice at a time. He heard her breathing, heard the ice clink again. They put you on leave, didn't they? Victoria asked. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Don't be. It was my choice. A choice you had to make because of me. A choice I made because of us, Lucas corrected. There's a difference. Victoria laughed softly. Emma asked about you tonight. Wanted to show you her spelling test. Lucas smiled. She asked about you too. Wanted to call and tell you about the frog they found. She's a good kid. The best. What did you tell her? About today? Nothing yet. She doesn't need to know her dad might lose his job. She's 6. She should worry about frogs and spelling tests. You're a good father, Lucas. I'm trying to be. They sat in comfortable silence, connected by phone lines and secrets and something neither could name. I have to decide soon, Victoria said finally, about the pregnancy. What are you leaning toward? I don't know. Every time I think I've decided, I change my mind. It's terrifying and exciting and impossible all at once. That sounds about right. What do you want? Victoria asked. Honestly. Lucas thought about that flutter on the ultrasound screen, about Victoria's hand on his wrist, about Emma asking for a sibling every Christmas, about the life he'd built from nothing and the life he might build from everything. I want whatever makes you happy, he said. I want you to choose without pressure or fear. And whatever you choose, I want to be there for it. Even if I choose to end this? The question hurt, but Lucas understood why she needed to ask it. Even then, Victoria's breath hitched. I don't deserve you. Yeah, you do. Lucas, you deserve someone who shows up, who doesn't run when things get hard, who sees you, really sees you, and doesn't look away. Lucas's voice steadied. You deserve someone who knows you're scared and stays anyway. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it's also worth it. They talked until midnight, about nothing and everything, until Victoria's words started slurring and Lucas insisted she get some sleep. After they hung up, Lucas checked his bank account and ran the numbers. 2 weeks of salary left. After that, savings that might last 6 weeks if he was careful. Then what? He fell asleep running calculations, dreaming of pink lines and fluttering heartbeats, and a future he couldn't quite see but couldn't stop reaching for. Friday morning, the story broke. Lucas woke to 17 missed calls, and a text from James that simply read, "Check the news. I'm sorry, man." He fumbled for his laptop with sleep-blurred eyes, Emma still snoring softly in her room. The first search result made his stomach drop through the floor. Meridian Design Executive Under Fire for Workplace Romance, screamed the headline from the local business journal. Below it, a photo of Victoria leaving the office yesterday, her face caught mid-stride, looking guilty even though she'd done nothing wrong. The article was careful, legally precise, mentioning no names besides Victoria's. But it didn't need to. Anyone at Meridian would know exactly who the unnamed subordinate employee was. Lucas scrolled through the piece with mounting horror. Anonymous sources, alleged impropriety, questions about favoritism in project assignments. Harold's fingerprints were all over this, wrapped in corporate speak and plausible deniability. His phone rang. Victoria, tell me you haven't seen it yet, she said, her voice ragged. Just did. Lucas, I'm so sorry. I don't know how they got the story. HR is supposed to keep investigations confidential. Harold leaked it. He probably had the article ready before the investigation even started. Victoria's silence confirmed his suspicion. My lawyer is drafting a response. We're going to fight this, prove he violated confidentiality protocols. Victoria, stop. Stop what? Stop trying to fix this like it's a business problem. Lucas sat up, running his hand through his hair. This isn't about HR violations or protocol breaches. Harold's not trying to win a legal battle. He's trying to destroy your reputation. I know that. Do you? Because you're still thinking like an executive. Harold's thinking like a predator. He doesn't care about being right. He cares about making you radioactive. Victoria was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. What do I do? I don't know. But whatever it is, we do it together. You can't. People are going to come after you next. The press, our coworkers, everyone's going to want to know who you are. Let them. Lucas, think about Emma. What if reporters show up at her school? What if other parents start talking? The thought made Lucas's blood run cold. Emma didn't deserve this. She didn't deserve to have her father's mistakes splashed across business journals and gossip sites. I'll handle it, he said, more confidently than he felt. How? The same way I handle everything, one crisis at a time. After they hung up, Lucas made coffee and tried to think. Emma would wake up soon, oblivious to the chaos unfolding around them. He had maybe an hour to figure out how to protect her from fallout she shouldn't have to experience. His phone buzzed. An email from Patricia Hollis marked urgent. Mr. Reed, in light of recent media coverage, we need to accelerate our investigation timeline. Please be available for a phone conference at 10 a.m. today. This is mandatory. So much for 2 weeks of administrative leave. Lucas checked the time. 7:15. Emma's Saturday gymnastics class started at 9, which meant he had 45 minutes before she woke up, demanding pancakes and cartoons. He opened his laptop and started drafting an email he never thought he'd have to write. A message to Emma's teacher, her school principal, Mrs. Chen. A warning that media attention might come their way. An apology for dragging them into his mess. The words felt inadequate, but what else could he say? Daddy? Lucas jumped. Emma stood in the doorway, rabbit clutched tight, her hair a nest of tangles. Hey, baby girl, you're up early. I heard your phone making noise. Are you working? Sort of. Come here. Emma climbed into his lap, all warm, sleepy weight and complete trust. Lucas held her close, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, and tried to memorize this moment before everything got worse. Daddy, you're squishing me, Emma giggled. Sorry, I just love you a lot. I love you too. Can we have pancakes? Absolutely. Extra chocolate chips? Yeah. Lucas made pancakes while Emma chattered about gymnastics and whether pterodactyls could do backflips. Normal life, simple joy, everything worth protecting. By 8:30, they were in the car heading to the community center where Emma's class met. His phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Reed, this is Amanda Chen from Channel 7 News. I'm working on a story about Meridian Design and was hoping to get your comment on allegations. Lucas hung up. Another call came immediately. Different number, different reporter, same invasive questions. He blocked both numbers and turned his phone to silent. Emma noticed his tension. Who keeps calling? Just work stuff, baby. Nothing important. You look worried. I'm fine. Look, we're here. Go show Miss Sarah your new cartwheel. Emma bounded out of the truck toward the building where her gymnastics instructor waited. Lucas watched through the window as Emma joined her class, laughing and tumbling with the unselfconscious freedom of childhood. His phone screen lit up with notifications. More calls. More emails. A text from Victoria. Don't talk to any reporters, please. At 9:50, Lucas called into the conference with HR. Patricia was there, along with someone else whose title Lucas didn't catch and couldn't care about. Mr. Reed, thank you for making time, Patricia began with professional courtesy that felt like a weapon. We need to discuss the media coverage and how it impacts our investigation. I haven't spoken to any media, Lucas said. We know, but the coverage raises new concerns about the scope of the relationship and its impact on company operations. What new concerns? Yesterday you had security footage and Harold's testimony. Nothing's actually changed except that Harold leaked confidential information to the press. That's a separate matter we're investigating. Is it? Because it seems pretty connected to me. The other voice on the call spoke up. Mr. Reed, hostility isn't productive here. Neither is having my private life dissected in the business journal, but here we are. Patricia intervened smoothly. Let's focus on the facts. We need to understand the full extent of your relationship with Ms. Lane. When did it begin? What was the nature of the relationship? Were there any work-related communications that crossed professional boundaries? Lucas thought about Victoria in his arms, about late-night conversations and stolen moments. He thought about 2 pink lines and a fluttering heartbeat. He thought about what truth cost and what lies protected. I'm not discussing my personal life without legal representation, Lucas said finally. That's your right, but understand that refusal to cooperate may impact our findings. I understand that you've already made up your mind, and this call is just theater. Silence on the other end. Then Patricia spoke, her voice harder. We'll be in touch next week with our decision. In the meantime, your administrative leave continues. They disconnected. Lucas sat in his truck outside the gymnastics center and watched Emma through the window, practicing handstands with fierce concentration. She fell, got up, tried again. Resilient, determined, his daughter. Victoria called at 10:30. How bad was it? She asked. About what I expected. They're going through the motions, but the outcome's already decided. My lawyer thinks we can fight this. Wrongful termination, breach of confidentiality. Victoria, I can't afford a lawyer. I can barely afford next month's rent. The words hung between them, a reminder of the massive gap in their circumstances. Victoria could hire attorneys and fight back. Lucas could update his resume and hope someone would hire him despite the scandal. I'll pay for it, Victoria said. I'll pay for the best employment lawyer in the state. No. Lucas, I'm not your charity case. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? Lucas tried to keep the edge out of his voice. You're trying to fix this with money because that's how you solve problems. But some things can't be fixed with a checkbook. So what? You just give up? Let them destroy your career? I'm not giving up. I'm being realistic. Even if we fight and win, I'm still the guy who slept with his boss. That follows me. Every job interview, every reference check, it's there. Victoria made a frustrated sound. So you're just going to roll over? I'm going to survive. That's what I do. By yourself? If I have to. Well, you don't have to. Whether you want my help or not, you're getting it. Victoria, I'm the reason you're in this mess. I'm not letting you drown because of some stubborn pride about accepting help. Lucas wanted to argue, but Emma's class was ending, kids streaming out in a colorful chaos of leotards and energy. I have to go. Emma's done. Lucas, wait. I'll call you later. He hung up before she could protest, before he could say something he'd regret. Emma ran to the truck, face flushed with exercise and triumph. Daddy, I did 3 cartwheels in a row. That's amazing, baby girl. I'm so proud of you. They stopped for lunch at the diner Emma loved, the one with the endless fries and crayons for coloring placemats. Lucas watched her draw elaborate scenes of dinosaurs and princesses while he picked at a burger he couldn't taste. Daddy, you're not eating, Emma observed. Not super hungry. Are you sick? Just thinking. Emma put down her crayon and looked at him with those serious brown eyes that saw too much. Is something wrong? You've been sad all week. Lucas's heart cracked a little. Everything's okay, sweetheart. Just some grown-up stuff I'm working through. Is it about Miss Victoria? Lucas nearly choked on his water. What? You always get happy when you talk about her. But now you look sad when your phone buzzes. Did you have a fight? 6 years old and already reading him like a book. Lucas shouldn't have been surprised. Emma had always been perceptive, tuned into emotions the way some kids were tuned into music. Sort of, Lucas admitted, but it's complicated. Do you love her? The question hit like a physical blow. Lucas stared at his daughter, at her earnest face and complete trust that he'd answer honestly. I think I might, he said quietly. Emma grinned. Good. She's nice, and she knows about pterodactyls. Those are important qualities. Will she be my friend too, if you love her? Lucas didn't know how to answer that, how to explain that love didn't guarantee anything, that circumstances could tear people apart no matter how they felt. I hope so, baby girl. I really hope so. That afternoon, while Emma napped, Lucas's phone exploded. The story had been picked up by larger outlets, business, websites, even a few national news aggregators. Victoria Lane, once celebrated as a rising star in design and development, was now the face of workplace scandal. The comment sections were brutal, full of assumptions and accusations and thinly veiled misogyny. Lucas read them all, watching strangers dissect Victoria's character, her choices, her worth. They called her predatory, unprofessional, a cautionary tale. Some even suggested the pregnancy was a trap, a scheme to secure money or position. His hands shook with rage. These people didn't know her brilliance or her vulnerability or the way she fought against her own fear every day. He texted Victoria. Don't read the comments. Victoria. Too late. Lucas. They don't know you. Victoria. Maybe they do. Maybe I am everything they're saying. Lucas. Stop. You're scared and you're spiraling. Don't let them win. Victoria. They've already won. My reputation is destroyed. The board is calling for my resignation. Harold's probably celebrating with champagne right now. Lucas called her. She answered with a voice thick from crying. Talk to me, he said. There's nothing to say. It's over. Everything I built, everything I worked for, gone. It's not gone. You're still brilliant. You still have your skills, your experience, tainted by scandal. No one's going to hire me now. I'm radioactive. Then you start your own firm. Victoria laughed bitterly. With what capital? What clients? Who's going to work with the woman who can't keep her personal and professional life separate? I would. You don't count. You're biased. Maybe. But I'm also right. Lucas softened his voice. You're thinking like you've already lost, but you're still in the fight, Victoria. We both are. For what? What are we fighting for? Lucas thought about that question, about Emma coloring dinosaurs, about a flutter on an ultrasound screen, about Victoria's hand gripping his wrist like an anchor. For the right to choose our own future, he said. For the chance to build something real instead of what other people expect. Victoria was quiet. He could hear her breathing, trying to steady herself. I'm supposed to give a statement, she said finally. My PR team drafted something, professional, apologetic, taking full responsibility. Is that what you want to say? I don't know what I want to say. I don't even know what the truth is anymore. The truth is simple. We're two people who care about each other. That's not a scandal. That's not shameful. The only mistake was letting people like Harold make us feel like it was. You make it sound so easy. It's not easy, but it is simple. Victoria sighed. What would you say? If you were giving the statement? Lucas thought about it. I'd tell them the truth, that you're human, that you made choices that weren't perfect but were real, and that you're not ashamed of being human. They'll destroy me even more. Maybe. Or maybe some people will respect you for being honest. That's naive. Probably, but I'm okay with that. Sunday morning arrived with more headlines, more speculation, more strangers weighing in on their lives. Lucas kept his phone off and focused on Emma, taking her to the park where they fed ducks and flew a kite that kept crashing. It's broken, Emma declared after the fifth crash. It's not broken. We just haven't figured out the right wind yet. That doesn't make sense. Sure it does. Sometimes you have to wait for conditions to change before things work. Emma considered this with childhood seriousness. Is that about the kite or about Miss Victoria? Lucas laughed despite everything. You're too smart for your own good, you know that? Grandma says I get it from you. Grandma's generous. They flew the kite until Emma got bored, then walked home as the sun set, turning the sky orange and gold. Normal moments, precious moments, the kind that mattered more than headlines or board meetings or corporate politics. At home, Lucas finally checked his phone. Dozens of messages, most from reporters or blocked numbers, but one from Victoria, sent an hour ago. I'm doing it. The statement, my way, live press conference tomorrow at 2 p.m. Lucas's stomach dropped. Live meant no edits, no safety net. Live meant Victoria was going all in. Lucas. Are you sure? Victoria. No, but I'm doing it anyway. Lucas. What are you going to say? Victoria. The truth, like you suggested. Lucas. Victoria. Victoria. I know it's risky, but I'm tired of being afraid. I'm tired of letting Harold and everyone else define who I am. Lucas. Where's the press conference? Victoria. Meridian's lobby. I'm making them host it. Lucas. That's bold. Victoria. That's terrified masquerading as bold, but you'll be watching? Lucas. I'll be there. Victoria. Lucas, you don't have to. Lucas. I'll be there? In person. Front row if they let me. Victoria. They'll crucify you. Lucas. Then we get crucified together. Monday morning, Lucas dropped Emma at school early and drove to Meridian Design. The parking lot was packed with news vans, reporters setting up equipment, cameras pointing at the building's glass entrance like weapons. Security tried to stop him at the door. I'm an employee, Lucas said. On administrative leave, the guard countered. I can't let you in. Fine, I'll watch from out here. Lucas positioned himself at the edge of the media crowd, close enough to see but far enough to avoid recognition. At 1:55, Victoria emerged from the building's interior, walking toward a podium that had been set up in the lobby. She wore a navy suit, her hair pulled back, her face composed. But Lucas could see the tremor in her hands as she adjusted the microphone. Harold stood off to the side with other board members, his expression carefully neutral. Watching, waiting for her to fail. Victoria cleared her throat. Cameras flashed. Reporters leaned forward. Good afternoon. My name is Victoria Lane, and I'm here to address recent allegations about my conduct at Meridian Design. Her voice was steady, professional. Lucas's chest tightened. For 15 years, I've dedicated my life to this company. I've worked 80-hour weeks. I've sacrificed relationships, hobbies, health. I've done everything asked of me and more, because I believed in the work we do here. I believed in creating spaces where people could live better lives. She paused, and Lucas saw her eyes scan the crowd, looking for him. He raised his hand slightly, just enough for her to see. Her gaze locked on his, and something in her expression shifted. But in pursuit of professional excellence, I forgot to live my own life. I forgot that I'm human, with needs and wants, and the same capacity for connection that everyone has. Victoria's voice strengthened. Recently, I developed feelings for someone. Someone who works at this company, yes. Someone whose kindness and integrity reminded me what actually matters in life. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Harold's expression darkened. We were careful. We maintained professional boundaries. We never used company time or resources for personal matters. But we did fall in love. And that love has resulted in a pregnancy. Gasps. Camera flashes like lightning. Victoria stood taller. I know what many of you are thinking, that I abused my position, that I showed favoritism, that I violated trust. She looked directly at Harold. Some people in this company certainly want you to think that, but I'm here to tell you the truth. Loving someone doesn't make me less capable of my job. Being pregnant doesn't make me less valuable as a leader, and I refuse to be ashamed of choosing happiness alongside success. Lucas felt tears on his face. He didn't care who saw. To the board of Meridian Design, I'm not resigning. I'm not apologizing for being human. What I am doing is demanding a fair and transparent investigation into the allegations against me. I'm demanding that whoever leaked confidential HR information be held accountable. And I'm demanding that this company decide whether it values people for their whole selves or just their productivity. Victoria gripped the podium, her voice dropping but not wavering. To the person I love. I'm sorry it took me so long to be this brave. Thank you for showing me what courage actually looks like. She stepped back from the microphone. Chaos erupted. Reporters shouting questions, cameras surging forward, Harold moving toward her with fury in his eyes. But before he could reach Victoria, Lucas pushed through the crowd. He didn't care about the cameras, didn't care about the headlines this would create. He walked straight to Victoria and stood between her and Harold, not threatening, not aggressive, just present, immovable. That was quite a performance, Harold said, his smile sharp. It wasn't a performance, Lucas said quietly. It was the truth. The truth? The truth is that you two violated company policy, and now you're trying to spin it as some romantic fairy tale. The truth, Victoria said, moving to stand beside Lucas, is that you've been waiting for me to make a mistake so you could take my position. This was just your opportunity. Harold's mask slipped slightly. Careful, Victoria. Accusations without evidence are dangerous. So is leaking confidential HR information to the press. Victoria pulled out her phone, turning it to show him something. My lawyer subpoenaed phone records. We know you contacted the Business Journal 30 minutes after my HR meeting. We have the email chain where you fed them information. So, unless you want your own press conference explaining corporate espionage, I'd suggest you back off. Harold's face went white. He looked between them, calculating his next move. Then he smiled coldly. This isn't over. Yes, Victoria said. It is. Harold walked away, his posture stiff with barely contained rage. Security finally managed to clear the lobby, ushering out reporters and restoring order. Victoria stood in the sudden quiet, breathing hard, her professional armor finally cracking. Did I just end my career? She asked Lucas. No, you just saved it. She laughed, a slightly hysterical sound. I can't believe I did that. I can. Victoria turned to face him fully. I meant what I said. About being sorry it took so long. About you being brave. I'm not brave. I'm terrified. Then we're both terrified. She reached for his hand right there in Meridian's lobby, where anyone could see. But at least we're terrified together. Lucas squeezed her hand. What happens now? Now we wait for the board to decide if they're firing me. Now we wait for HR to finish their investigation. Now we figure out how to build a life that doesn't implode every 72 hours. Sounds complicated. Sounds impossible, Victoria corrected. But you seem to like impossible. Only when it's worth it. They stood there, hands linked, while the building's normal rhythms resumed around them. Somewhere upstairs, Harold was probably already plotting his next move. Somewhere in a conference room, board members were discussing Victoria's future. Somewhere in the world, people were judging them based on headlines and assumptions. But none of that mattered right now. Right now, Lucas held Victoria's hand and felt her pulse steady against his palm. Right now, they were together in the chaos they'd created, and for the first time in weeks, Lucas felt like maybe they could actually survive this. His phone buzzed. Emma's school. Mr. Reed, this is Principal Morrison. We need you to come in. There's been an incident involving Emma. Lucas's blood turned to ice. What happened? Is she hurt? She's fine physically, but there was an altercation on the playground. Can you come right away? Lucas looked at Victoria, saw his panic reflected in her eyes. I'll drive you, she said immediately. They ran for her car, the press conference forgotten, everything else forgotten except the fear that his choices had finally caught up to his daughter. Victoria drove like someone who understood emergency, weaving through traffic with controlled precision while Lucas gripped his phone, waiting for it to ring again with worse news. The elementary school was 15 minutes away. She made it in 9. They found Emma sitting outside Principal Morrison's office. Her knees scraped and dirt smeared across her gymnastics-themed t-shirt. Her face was blotchy from crying, but when she saw Lucas, she launched herself at him with the force of complete trust. Daddy! Lucas caught her, holding tight while his heart hammered against his ribs. Hey, baby girl, are you okay? What happened? Emma buried her face in his shoulder and didn't answer. Over her head, Lucas met Victoria's eyes. She stood awkwardly in the hallway, clearly unsure if she belonged here, but unwilling to leave. Principal Morrison emerged from her office, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Reed, thank you for coming so quickly. Her gaze shifted to Victoria. And you are? Victoria Lane, Victoria hesitated, searching for words that fit. I'm with Lucas. The principal's expression suggested she'd already heard about the news coverage, but she simply nodded. Please, come in. Emma, you too, sweetie. Inside the office, Emma clung to Lucas's hand while they sat in chairs meant for parent-teacher conferences. The principal settled behind her desk and folded her hands with the weight of bad news.
Emma got into a physical altercation during recess, Morrison began carefully. She pushed another student, Chloe Martinez, who fell and scraped her hands. Lucas felt his stomach drop. Emma didn't push people. She was gentle, sometimes too gentle, the kid who cried when other kids squished bugs. Emma, is that true? Lucas asked softly. Emma nodded miserably, tears spilling down her cheeks. Can you tell me what happened? Why you pushed Chloe? Emma's voice came out small and broken. She said mean things about you. Lucas's chest constricted. What kind of mean things? Emma looked at Principal Morrison, then at Victoria, clearly uncomfortable. Lucas crouched down to her level, making himself smaller, less intimidating. It's okay, baby. You can tell me. I won't be mad. Chloe said her mom saw you on TV. She said you did bad things with a lady from your work. She said you were going to jail, and I was going to foster care, and Emma's words dissolved into sobs. Lucas felt the world tilt sideways. This was it. The moment he'd been dreading. His choices, his life, crashing into Emma's innocent world and shattering her sense of safety. Victoria made a soft, wounded sound beside him. Oh, Emma, Principal Morrison said gently, those things aren't true. Your daddy isn't going to jail. But Chloe's mom was wrong, Lucas said firmly, pulling Emma into his lap. Adults sometimes say things that aren't true, especially when they hear stories that are confusing or incomplete. But you were on TV. I saw it on Mrs. Martinez's phone when she picked up Chloe. Emma hiccuped. You and Miss Victoria were on TV, and people were yelling questions. Lucas closed his eyes briefly. Of course, Emma had seen it. Of course, other parents had been watching, gossiping, spreading their interpretations to their children, who then weaponized that information on the playground. Mr. Reed, Principal Morrison said carefully, I understand you're dealing with a difficult personal situation that's become public. But we have a zero-tolerance policy for physical violence, regardless of provocation. I understand. Emma will need to apologize to Chloe and sit out recess for the rest of the week. The principal's expression softened. However, I'll also be speaking with Mrs. Martinez about appropriate conversations in front of children. What Chloe repeated was clearly something she overheard from an adult. Thank you, Lucas said quietly. Is there anything else the school should know? Anything that might affect Emma's well-being or our ability to support her? Lucas looked at Victoria, who sat very still, her hands clenched in her lap. He thought about that press conference, about his probable unemployment, about the pregnancy that would eventually become visible and impossible to hide. Things are complicated right now, Lucas admitted, but Emma's welfare is my top priority. Always. I can see that. Morrison turned to Emma. Sweetie, what Chloe said was hurtful and wrong, but pushing is never the answer. Can you understand that? Emma nodded, wiping her nose on Lucas's shirt. I'm sorry, I just got so mad. Anger is okay. How we handle anger is what matters. The principal handed Emma a tissue. Tomorrow, you'll apologize to Chloe. And if anyone says mean things about your family again, you come tell a teacher instead of handling it yourself. Deal. Deal, Emma whispered. They left the school with Emma between them, each holding one of her hands. Victoria's presence felt both natural and surreal, like she belonged there but hadn't earned the right yet. In the parking lot, Emma looked up at her. Are you the lady from Daddy's work? Victoria crouched down, meeting Emma at eye level. Yes, I am. We've met before, remember? At the family day? You gave me the pencils with dinosaurs. That's right. You told me all about pterodactyls. Emma's face scrunched up. Are you and Daddy in trouble because of me? What? No, sweetheart. Why would you think that? Because Chloe said you were having a baby, and that's why everyone's mad. But I asked for a baby brother or sister for Christmas, so maybe it's my fault. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Lucas felt his own throat close up. The innocence of that logic, the way Emma had somehow twisted the situation to make herself responsible, broke something inside him. Emma, listen to me, Victoria said, her voice thick but steady. Nothing about this is your fault. Not one single thing. Adults make adult choices, and sometimes those choices get complicated, but you didn't cause any of this.
Are you really having a baby? Victoria glanced at Lucas, uncertain. He nodded slightly. Emma deserved truth, even difficult truth. I might be, Victoria said carefully. It's still very early, and there are a lot of decisions to make. But if I do have a baby, it would be because your dad and I care about each other very much. Would it be my brother or sister? The question hung in the air, full of hope and complication. Lucas hadn't thought that far ahead, hadn't considered how Emma would fit into whatever future they were stumbling toward. We haven't figured all that out yet, Lucas said. But whatever happens, you're my number one girl, always. That never changes. Emma seemed to accept this. Okay. Can we go home now? I'm tired. In the truck, Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from emotion and consequence. Lucas drove while Victoria followed in her car, this strange caravan heading to his apartment like they'd planned it. Inside, Lucas carried Emma to her bed and tucked her in with her rabbit. She barely stirred. When he came back to the living room, Victoria stood by the window, looking out at the parking lot like she was memorizing an exit strategy. I'm so sorry, she said without turning around. For what? For all of it. For Emma getting hurt because of us. For the headlines and the gossip and… Victoria, stop. Lucas moved closer. Emma stood up for me. Yeah, she shouldn't have pushed that kid, but she was defending her father. That's not your fault. It's not yours either. Victoria finally turned to face him. We keep saying that, but somewhere along the line, we have to accept that our choices have consequences. And now Emma's paying for them. All choices have consequences. That doesn't make them wrong. Victoria laughed bitterly. Spoken like someone who's never had everything they worked for destroyed in a single afternoon. You think I haven't? Lucas's voice sharpened. I was 22 when Emma was born. I had a scholarship to grad school, a future in architecture, dreams that weren't measured in survival. And then Sarah got pregnant, and every single one of those dreams evaporated. You think that didn't feel like destruction? Victoria flinched. I didn't mean… I know what you meant. You're scared and you're lashing out. But don't tell me I don't understand loss. Lucas softened his tone. The difference is, I learned that what I lost wasn't worth as much as what I gained. You can't compare… Can I? You lost your reputation today, maybe your job, but you gained something too. You gained the truth. You gained the freedom to stop pretending you're invincible. Victoria sank onto his worn couch, her perfect composure finally shattering. I don't know how to do this. Any of this. I don't know how to be the person who admits weakness. I don't know how to parent. I don't even know if I want to be a mother. Lucas sat beside her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his presence. You want honesty? Always. I don't think you're afraid of being a mother. I think you're afraid of being your mother, and those are two completely different things. Victoria's breath hitched. What if I can't tell the difference? Then you ask for help. You let people in. You stop trying to control everything and accept that some things are beautiful precisely because they're messy. I don't do messy. You're doing it right now. Victoria looked around his apartment, really seeing it for the first time. The mismatched furniture from thrift stores and curb alerts. The crayon marks on the wall Emma had tried to clean off but couldn't quite erase. The stack of bills on the kitchen counter next to a drawing of a T-Rex labeled Daddy's Favorite. This is your life, Victoria said quietly. Yeah. It's so different from mine. Is that bad? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. No, it's just real. My house is perfect because nothing in it matters. This place matters because everything's been lived in. Emma's good at living in things. She leaves evidence everywhere. I like evidence. Victoria smiled slightly. It means someone was there. They sat in comfortable silence while Emma slept and the afternoon light slanted through cheap blinds. Lucas's phone buzzed. An email from Patricia Hollis. Mr. Reed, the investigation has concluded. Please call at your earliest convenience to discuss findings and next steps. Lucas showed Victoria the email. She read it, her expression unreadable. What do you think they decided? She asked. That I'm a liability. That I crossed lines I shouldn't have crossed. Lucas set his phone down. That they're letting me go. You don't know that. Don't I? Victoria took his hand, and the gesture felt monumental. If they fire you, we fight. I've got the best employment lawyers money can buy, and Victoria, I told you, this isn't charity. This is partnership. This is me standing up for someone I... She stopped, the word hovering between them. Someone you what? Lucas asked softly. Victoria met his eyes, and in that moment she looked terrified and brave and completely human. Someone I love. There. I said it. I love you, Lucas Reed. I don't know when it happened or how, but somewhere between late-night design reviews and you being patient with my damage, I fell completely in love with you. Lucas felt the words hit his chest like a physical thing, warm and terrifying and perfect. You picked the worst times for declarations. I know, but if I don't say it now, I might never say it. And you deserve to know that this isn't about convenience or crisis or pregnancy hormones. This is about you seeing me, really seeing me, and not running away. I'm not running. I know. That's why I love you. Lucas pulled her close, kissed her like they weren't sitting in his falling apart apartment with his daughter asleep in the next room and their careers imploding around them. Kissed her like none of that mattered, because in this moment, it didn't. When they broke apart, Victoria rested her forehead against his. Now what? Now I call HR back. Now we figure out the next impossible thing. Lucas stroked her hair. But first I'm going to say it back. I love you too. I love your brilliance and your fear and the way you pretend you don't need anyone. I love that you gave Emma dinosaur pencils and remembered her name. I love that you're terrible at being vulnerable, but you're trying anyway. Victoria laughed, tears streaking her face. We're a disaster. Best kind of disaster. Lucas called Patricia Hollis back, putting the phone on speaker so Victoria could hear. The HR director answered on the second ring. Mr. Reed, thank you for calling back. What's the verdict? Patricia didn't waste time on pleasantries. The investigation found that while your relationship with Miss Lane violated company policy, there's insufficient evidence of favoritism or abuse of power. However, the publicity surrounding the situation has created an untenable working environment. Lucas's stomach sank. So you're firing me. We're offering a severance package, 3 months' salary, continuation of benefits through the end of the year, and a neutral reference for future employment. In exchange, you agree not to pursue legal action. And if I don't accept, then we terminate for policy violation with no severance and no guarantee of reference quality. It was blackmail dressed in corporate language. Take the money and disappear, or fight and lose everything. What about Victoria? Lucas asked. I can't discuss other employees. She's on the line right now, Lucas interrupted. So you can discuss it with her. Silence. Then Patricia's voice came back, more careful. Ms. Lane's situation is being handled separately by the board. When? Victoria asked. The board meets Thursday. They'll vote on your status then. And Harold? What's being done about the confidentiality breach? That's also under investigation. In other words, nothing. Victoria's voice hardened. He leaked private HR information to the press, potentially violated federal privacy laws, and you're investigating while I'm being voted out. Miss Lane, I understand your frustration. No, you don't. Because if you did, you'd recognize that Harold orchestrated this entire situation to remove a rival. He followed us to a medical appointment, violated our privacy, and weaponized that information. And instead of consequences, he gets to watch while you dismantle my career. The board takes all allegations seriously. The board takes politics seriously. There's a difference. Patricia exhaled slowly. For what it's worth, I've seen a lot of workplace relationships over 20 years. Most of them are about power or convenience. But what I saw between you two seemed different. I hope that counts for something. It doesn't save our jobs, Lucas said. No, it doesn't. They ended the call in heavy silence. Lucas had 3 months of severance, which was more than he'd expected, but less than he needed. Victoria had 3 days until a board vote that could end everything she'd built. We should celebrate, Victoria said suddenly. Lucas stared at her. Celebrate what? The fact that we're still here, still fighting, still stupid enough to think love matters more than corporate politics.
That's not much of a celebration. It's everything. Victoria stood, pulling Lucas up with her. Come on, let's wake up Emma and go get ice cream. Terrible for you ice cream with sprinkles and hot fudge and all the things responsible adults avoid. It's 4 in the afternoon. Exactly. Ice cream before dinner, living dangerously. Lucas laughed despite everything. You're serious? Completely. If I'm going down eating ice cream with you and your daughter. That's the headline I want. They woke Emma gently, told her they were going for a treat. She perked up immediately, 6-year-old resilience already bouncing back from the playground incident. At the ice cream shop, Emma ordered a sundae bigger than her head, while Victoria got mint chip and Lucas stuck with chocolate. This is nice, Emma said, chocolate syrup on her chin. We should do this more. Do what? Lucas asked. Be together, the 3 of us. Emma looked between them with complete innocence. It feels like a family. Victoria's spoon froze halfway to her mouth. Lucas saw the panic flash across her face, the instinct to run from that word and everything it implied. But then Emma reached over and stole a bite of Victoria's ice cream, grinning, and something in Victoria's expression softened. Yeah, Victoria said quietly. It does. That night, after Lucas put Emma to bed, he found Victoria on his apartment's tiny balcony, looking out at the parking lot and the streetlights beyond. He brought her a blanket because the November air had teeth. Thank you, she said, wrapping it around her shoulders. For today. For letting me be part of Emma's life, even just for ice cream. She likes you. She doesn't like most people this fast. She's perceptive, gets it from her dad. Lucas leaned against the railing beside her. What are you thinking about? Thursday. The board vote. Victoria's voice was steady but quiet. I've been preparing for it like a campaign, gathering allies, building arguments, planning my defense. That's smart. It's exhausting. She turned to face him. I've spent 15 years fighting for every scrap of respect, fighting to be taken seriously, to be seen as more than a woman in a man's industry. And now I'm fighting to keep what I earned because I fell in love. What do you want to do? Victoria was quiet for a long time. I want to walk away. Lucas's heart sank. From me? What? No. From them. From Meridian and Harold and the whole toxic system. She laughed softly. I want to take my skills and my reputation, or what's left of it, and build something new. Something where love isn't liability and being human isn't weakness. That's a big risk. Everything's a risk now. Might as well risk on something worth building. Lucas pulled her close, feeling her warmth against the cold night. What about the baby? Victoria's hand moved instinctively to her stomach, still flat but sheltering something impossible. I think I want to try. I'm terrified, and I'll probably make 1,000 mistakes, but I think I want to try. Yeah? Yeah. She looked up at him. Is that okay? Are we really doing this? Lucas thought about Emma asleep inside, about Victoria standing on his balcony wrapped in his blanket, about a future he couldn't predict but could choose anyway. We're really doing this. Thursday arrived with the weight of judgment. Victoria dressed in her armor, a black suit that cost more than Lucas's monthly rent, her hair severe, her makeup perfect. She looked like she was going to war. How do I look? She asked. Terrifying, in the best way. Good. That's what I was going for. Lucas wanted to go with her, to sit in that boardroom and stare down Harold and every executive who thought they could erase Victoria's worth. But they'd agreed he would stay with Emma, keep things normal, let Victoria fight this battle on her own terms. Call me the second it's done, Lucas said. I will. Victoria left at noon. Lucas distracted himself by helping Emma with homework, making dinner too early, checking his phone every 30 seconds. At 2:15, his phone rang. It's done, Victoria said, her voice strange. And? They didn't fire me. They didn't even force a resignation. Lucas felt relief flood through him. That's amazing. How? Harold's gone. What? Victoria laughed, slightly hysterical. The board moved first. They voted to terminate Harold for breach of confidentiality, corporate espionage, and about 6 other violations I didn't know they'd uncovered. Apparently, my lawyer's investigation turned up more than just the leaked HR information. He'd been sabotaging other executives for years.
So you won. I guess I did. But Victoria didn't sound victorious. She sounded exhausted. They want me to take over Harold's position, executive VP. More money, more power, everything I've worked for. Lucas heard the hesitation. But it means the same 80-hour weeks, the same constant battles, the same life I just told you I wanted to walk away from. What did you tell them? That I need time to think. They gave me until Monday. That evening, Victoria came to the apartment still wearing her suit, her armor dented but intact. Emma ran to greet her, showing off a painting she'd made at school, a family of dinosaurs with a baby dinosaur in the middle. I made it for you, Emma said shyly, for when you have your baby. Victoria took the painting with trembling hands, studying the carefully colored dinosaurs. It's beautiful, Emma. Thank you. The baby one is a Triceratops because they're the best at protecting their families. Lucas watched Victoria's face crumple, watched her kneel down and hug Emma with the fierceness of someone learning what love looked like in real time. I'll treasure this forever, Victoria whispered. That night, after Emma fell asleep clutching her rabbit, Lucas and Victoria lay on his too small couch, tangled together in the darkness. I'm going to turn down the promotion, Victoria said. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She turned to face him. I want to start my own firm, small, focused on residential design and sustainable development. I want to work with people who see architecture as more than profit margins. That sounds incredible. It sounds terrifying. I'll need to find investors, build a client base, probably work out of my garage for the first year. You'll also need a senior designer, Lucas said carefully. Someone who understands residential projects and can work well with a demanding boss. Victoria smiled in the darkness. Are you applying for the position? Might be. Victoria kissed him, soft and slow and full of promise. When did you become such a romantic? When I fell in love with someone who needed romancing. They stayed like that, planning impossible futures and believing in them anyway, until the city lights faded and dawn began its slow approach. Friday morning, Victoria called the Meridian board and declined their offer. She submitted her resignation effective immediately, with no severance, no negotiation, just a clean break from everything she'd built. How do you feel? Lucas asked. Free, terrified, completely insane. Victoria grinned. It's perfect. They spent the weekend planning. Victoria's house became headquarters for a business that didn't exist yet. They drafted mission statements and sketched logos and argued about names until Emma suggested Lane and Reed Design with the confidence of someone who knew she was right. It's alphabetical, Emma explained. Miss Victoria's last name comes first. What if we made it Reed and Lane? Lucas suggested. That's also alphabetical. Emma considered this seriously. But ladies first. Grandma says that's manners. Victoria laughed until she cried. Lane and Reed Design it is. Can't argue with manners. Monday morning, Lucas's phone rang. Patricia Hollis. Mr. Reed, I wanted to let you know that given Miss Lane's resignation and the termination of Mr. Crane, the board has decided to rescind your severance and offer you the opportunity to return to work, should you wish to. Lucas looked at Victoria, who was sketching logo concepts at his kitchen table while Emma colored beside her. He looked at the life they were building, messy and uncertain and real. Thank you, Lucas said, but I'm afraid I'll have to decline. I've accepted another position. May I ask where? Lane and Reed Design. We're a startup, but I think we have potential. Patricia chuckled. I think you're right. Good luck, Mr. Reed. Thank you, Miss Hollis, for everything. He hung up and returned to the table, to Victoria and Emma and the future they were drawing together. What did they say? Victoria asked. They offered my job back. And I told them I was already employed by a visionary architect who's going to change the industry. Victoria blushed. That's generous. That's accurate. Lucas kissed the top of her head. Now, what do you think about green buildings? Emma thinks all our projects should have rooftop gardens. Emma's right, as usual. They worked through the afternoon, 3 people building something from nothing, believing in each other when belief was all they had. And somewhere in Victoria's belly, too small to feel but impossible to forget, a heart kept beating. The first month of Lane and Reed Design operated out of Victoria's dining room with a laptop, 2 folding tables from Target, and Emma's artistic consultation on everything from letterhead to client presentations. Lucas had never worked harder or slept less, but he'd also never felt more alive. "We need actual office space," Victoria said one Wednesday morning, surrounded by fabric samples and blueprint rolls that had taken over her entire first floor. "I love you, but if I have to conduct one more client meeting with dinosaur drawings visible in the background, I might lose my mind." "Those drawings are charming," Lucas argued, looking at Emma's latest masterpiece taped to the wall behind Victoria's laptop. "They show we're family-friendly. They show we're operating out of someone's house, which we are, but clients don't need constant reminders." Emma looked up from her cereal. "Miss Victoria, are you embarrassed of my art?" Victoria's face softened immediately. "Never, sweetheart. Your art is the best part of this office. I just think maybe we need a bigger space so we can display it properly." "Like a gallery?" Exactly like a gallery." Lucas smiled at how naturally Victoria had learned to navigate Emma's feelings, how she'd stopped apologizing for every perceived misstep and started trusting her instincts. It had been 6 weeks since Victoria's press conference, 6 weeks of building something from nothing while the world watched and judged and slowly lost interest in their scandal. The pregnancy was progressing. Victoria was almost 12 weeks now, past the highest risk period, though she still hadn't told anyone beyond Lucas and Emma. Her body was changing in subtle ways, a slight thickening at her waist, a fullness to her face that makeup couldn't quite hide. Soon they'd have to make announcements, face more scrutiny, weather more opinions about their choices. But not yet. For now, it was still their secret. "I found a space," Lucas said, pulling up listings on his phone. "It's in the Arts District, 2nd floor of a converted warehouse. 2,000 square feet, good natural light, affordable lease." Victoria leaned over to look at the photos. "It needs work." "Everything needs work. That's what makes it perfect." They toured the space that afternoon while Emma was at school. The warehouse had good bones, exposed brick, high ceilings with original beams, large windows facing south. But it also had water damage in one corner, electrical that needed updating, and a bathroom that looked like a crime scene. "We'd have to invest at least $20,000 to make it functional," Victoria said, walking the perimeter and taking notes. "Or we do most of the work ourselves and invest sweat equity instead of cash." Victoria stopped walking and turned to face him. "Lucas, I'm pregnant. I can't be around paint fumes and construction dust. So you supervise and design while I do the heavy lifting. We hire out electrical and plumbing, handle the rest ourselves." "That could take months. We have time. Our first major project doesn't start until spring." Lucas moved to stand beside her, looking out the large windows at the city beyond. "I know it's not perfect, but it's ours. We could build exactly what we need instead of compromising on someone else's space." Victoria was quiet, and Lucas could see her doing calculations, risk versus reward, practical versus aspirational. Then she smiled. "Emma's going to want to help paint. Obviously, she's already designing a mural for the reception area." "She is?" "Showed me sketches yesterday. It involves pterodactyls and what I think is supposed to be a sunrise, but might be an explosion." Victoria laughed, the sound echoing in the empty space. "Okay, let's do it. Let's build our dinosaur explosion office." They signed the lease the following week. Lucas worked evenings and weekends, tearing out damaged drywall and refinishing floors, while Victoria handled client development and business planning from home. Emma came on Saturdays, wearing a child-sized tool belt Lucas had bought her, handing him nails and offering design advice. "That wall should be blue," Emma declared one Saturday in early December. "Why blue?" Lucas asked, measuring for shelving. "Because babies like blue. And Miss Victoria's baby is going to visit here sometimes." Lucas paused, hammer in hand. "How do you know about the baby?" Emma gave him a look that suggested he was being deliberately obtuse. "Daddy, her tummy is getting bigger, and she drinks special tea now that smells gross. And she fell asleep during our movie last week. Obviously, she's growing a baby." "Obviously," Lucas echoed, bemused. "Does it bother you? The baby?" Emma considered this with the seriousness she applied to all important questions. "Will you still have time for me when there's a baby?" Lucas set down his tools and pulled Emma into his lap, getting sawdust on both of them. Listen to me, baby girl. You're my daughter. You're my first everything, my first smile in the morning, my first priority, my first love. Nothing changes that. Not a new baby, not a new business, nothing. But babies need lots of attention. Maya's mom had a baby, and now Maya says her mom is always tired and crying. Babies are hard work, Lucas admitted. And yeah, things will be different. But different doesn't mean I love you less. It means our family gets bigger. Is Miss Victoria part of our family now? The question Lucas had been avoiding, the conversation he knew was coming but didn't know how to navigate. What do you think? I think she is. She comes to my gymnastics shows and knows how I like my sandwiches cut and remembers to ask about my spelling tests. Emma played with the hem of her shirt. Is she going to be my mom? Lucas's chest tightened. Your mom is your mom, Emma. No one replaces her, even though she's not around. I know, but can someone have two moms, like one who made me and one who stays? The simple logic of childhood, cutting through complexity to reach essential truth. Yeah, baby girl. I think someone can have two moms. Good, because I like Miss Victoria. She's nice and she's teaching me about buildings. She is pretty great. Are you going to marry her? Lucas laughed. You don't waste time, do you? Mrs. Chen says life's too short for wasting time. She's really old, so she would know. Wise woman, Mrs. Chen. So are you. Lucas thought about Victoria at the clinic, gripping his wrist, about her standing at that podium, choosing truth over safety, about quiet mornings in his apartment and late nights planning their future. I think I might, he said honestly. Would that be okay with you? Emma grinned, gap-toothed and brilliant. Yeah, can I be in the wedding? You can plan the whole wedding if you want. Really? Really? Emma launched into immediate planning, purple flowers and dinosaur centerpieces and a cake shaped like a building. Lucas listened, holding his daughter and imagining a future that included white dresses and vows and Victoria becoming permanent. That night, after dropping Emma at home, Lucas stopped by Victoria's house. She answered the door in yoga pants and one of his old t-shirts, her hair piled on top of her head, looking more beautiful than she had in any power suit. Hi, she said, surprised. I thought you were working late at the space. Needed to see you. Victoria stepped aside to let him in. Is everything okay? Emma asked if I was going to marry you. Victoria froze in the middle of her foyer. What did you tell her? That I might be. That I wanted to. Lucas moved closer, taking her hands. She started planning the wedding immediately. Apparently it involves dinosaurs and purple flowers. Lucas, I know this is fast. I know we're still figuring things out. But I also know that I want to build a life with you. Not just a business, not just because of the baby, because you're it for me. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. You can't propose in my hallway while I'm wearing your gross old t-shirt and haven't showered. Why not? This is real. This is us. This is insane. We've known each other less than a year. We're starting a business that might fail. I'm pregnant and terrified, and I cry at commercials now. I know. I don't even have a ring. Lucas pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple gold band with a small diamond. Nothing extravagant, but clearly chosen with care. I bought it 2 weeks ago, Lucas admitted. Kept waiting for the perfect moment. Then realized with us, there's no perfect. There's just real. Victoria stared at the ring, then at Lucas, then back at the ring. You're serious? Completely. We're going to fight. I'm terrible at compromise, and you're too patient, and we're going to drive each other crazy. Probably. And I still don't know if I'll be a good mother. I might screw this up spectacularly. We'll screw it up together. Victoria laughed through her tears. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. Lucky for me, you've never been proposed to before. How do you know that? Because you told me once that you'd never let anyone close enough to ask. Victoria touched his face, her fingers gentle. I let you close. I noticed. You're going to have to actually ask the question, you know, properly. Lucas knelt in her hallway on marble that cost more than his truck, holding a ring that represented 2 weeks' worth of severance pay. Victoria Lane, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me that's messy and real and absolutely terrifying? Will you let me love you even when you're scared and let me stay even when it's hard? You make it sound so romantic when you put it that way. Is that a yes? Victoria pulled him up and kissed him, deep and certain and full of promise. That's a yes. That's 1,000 times yes. They stood in her perfect hallway, two imperfect people choosing each other anyway. And Lucas thought about how far they'd come from that night with the pregnancy test, how much had broken and rebuilt and become something stronger. The ring fit perfectly. Victoria held her hand up to the light, watching it sparkle. Emma's going to be insufferable about being right, Victoria said. She already is. Started planning the wedding the second I said I might propose. Did she now? Dinosaur centerpieces, purple flowers, a cake shaped like a building. Victoria laughed until she cried, leaning against Lucas for support. We're really doing this. All of it. All of it, Lucas confirmed. They told Emma the next morning over pancakes at the diner she loved. Lucas had expected squealing and excitement. What he got was Emma looking between them with knowing satisfaction. I told you, she said to Lucas. I told you Miss Victoria was going to stay. You did. Can I call you Mom? Emma asked Victoria suddenly. Or is that weird? Victoria's fork clattered against her plate. She looked at Lucas, panicked, and he gave her a small nod. Your choice. Your answer. You can call me whatever feels right to you, Victoria said carefully. Mom, Victoria, Miss Victoria, whatever makes you comfortable. What do you want me to call you? Victoria wiped her eyes. I think I'd like Mom, if that's okay with you. Emma beamed. Okay, Mom. Can we go look at wedding dresses today? Sweetheart, the wedding's not for months, but we should start planning now. Mrs. Chen says preparation prevents problems. Lucas laughed. Mrs. Chen has a lot of wisdom. They spent the afternoon at bridal shops, Emma insisting on trying on flower girl dresses, while Victoria looked at simple, elegant gowns that would accommodate her growing belly. By spring, she'd be visibly pregnant. They'd have to plan around that, time the wedding carefully. What about New Year's? Victoria suggested that evening, after Emma had fallen asleep on her couch, exhausted from dress shopping. It's soon enough that I won't be huge, late enough to get the office functional. New Year's is 3 weeks away. So, we're not planning some elaborate affair, just us, Emma, a few close friends. Lucas thought about it. A small ceremony, simple and true, starting the new year as a family. Where? The office. Our space. We build it together and get married in it. It's not finished. It will be enough. We'll make it enough. And they did. For 3 weeks, Lucas worked day and night to transform the warehouse space into something worthy of both a wedding and a business. Victoria managed details between client calls, ordering flowers and arranging catering, and finding an officiant who didn't mind unconventional venues. Emma appointed herself director of decoration, stringing lights and arranging her dinosaur centerpieces with the confidence of someone who knew her vision was perfect. The guest list was small. Mrs. Chen, James from Meridian and his family, Dr. Morrison from the clinic, a handful of Victoria's friends who'd stood by her through the scandal. Lucas's parents drove up from Florida, his mother crying the moment she saw Victoria's belly. A grandbaby, she kept saying, another grandbaby. Emma corrected her immediately. 2 grandbabies, Grandma, me and the new one. Of course, sweetheart, 2 perfect grandbabies. New Year's Eve arrived cold and clear. The office space glowed with string lights and candles, Emma's purple flowers arranged in mason jars on tables Lucas had built from reclaimed wood. The exposed brick was warm in the candlelight, the high ceilings making the small gathering feel intimate rather than sparse. Lucas stood at the front of the room in his only suit, Emma beside him in a purple dress she'd chosen herself, complete with dinosaur print shoes. Victoria appeared at the far end of the space, walking toward him in a simple cream dress that showed the gentle curve of her belly. She was beautiful. She was terrified. She was his. The ceremony was short, personal, full of promises about choosing each other daily and building a life worth living. When the officiant asked for rings, Emma produced them from her dinosaur purse with the solemnity of someone handling precious cargo. I now pronounce you husband and wife. Lucas kissed Victoria while their small gathering applauded, and Emma announced loudly that she'd known this would happen all along. Mrs. Chen cried. James whistled. Victoria's friends took photos that would end up framed in their office. The reception was casual, pizza and champagne, Emma running between adults with the freedom of someone who knew she was loved. At 11:30, Lucas found Victoria standing by the windows, looking out at the city lights. "Hi, wife," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Hi, husband." She leaned back against him. "We did it." "We did." "I'm terrified." "I know, but also happy. Is that allowed, to be both?" "I think that's called being human." Victoria turned in his arms, her belly pressing against him, evidence of their future growing between them. "I love you, Lucas Reed." "I love you too, Victoria Reed." She smiled. "I'm keeping lane professionally, but I like the sound of Victoria Reed." "Me too." At midnight, they gathered everyone for the countdown. Emma stood between Lucas and Victoria, holding both their hands while the city outside erupted in celebration. New year, new life, new family. The pregnancy progressed through winter into spring. Victoria's body changed dramatically, her belly swelling with life that kicked and moved and made its presence known. She worked until 2 weeks before her due date, conducting client meetings from the office couch when standing became too exhausting. Emma talked to the baby constantly, reading it stories about dinosaurs and explaining the finer points of first grade. "You're going to love school," she told Victoria's belly. "But spelling tests are hard, so I'll help you study." Lucas finished the nursery in the spare room at Victoria's house. Their house now, since he and Emma had officially moved in February. He painted the walls a soft green, built a crib from sustainable wood, installed blackout curtains for those inevitable sleepless nights. Victoria supervised from a rocking chair they'd bought together, offering suggestions and fighting tears at random moments. "Hormones," she'd say, wiping her eyes. "I'm not actually crying about curtains." "You're allowed to cry about curtains." "I'm crying about everything. Yesterday I cried because you made me toast. It was really good toast." The baby arrived on a rainy April morning, 3 days past the due date, after 16 hours of labor that tested every ounce of Victoria's control. Lucas held her hand through all of it, let her squeeze until his fingers went numb, whispered encouragement when she insisted she couldn't do this. "You can," he said. "You're the strongest person I know." "I'm not strong, I'm terrified." "That's the same thing." At 6:47 a.m., their son entered the world screaming his displeasure at the cold and the lights and everything that wasn't the warm darkness he'd left behind. The nurses placed him on Victoria's chest, and Lucas watched his wife, his fierce, brilliant, terrified wife, look at their baby with wonder. "Hi," Victoria whispered. "Hi, little one. I'm your mom." The baby quieted, responded to her voice, the voice he'd been hearing for 9 months. Lucas touched his son's tiny hand, felt impossibly small fingers curl around his thumb. "He's perfect," Lucas said. "He's wrinkly and angry." "Perfect," Lucas repeated. They named him James, after Lucas's father and the co-worker who'd supported them through everything. James Lucas Reed, 8 pounds, 6 ounces, a full head of dark hair and his mother's gray eyes. Emma met her brother that afternoon, scrubbed clean and vibrating with excitement. She approached the hospital bed carefully, like she understood the magnitude of the moment. "He's so small," Emma breathed, looking at James sleeping in Victoria's arms. "You were this small once," Lucas said. "Really? Really? Want to hold him?" They arranged Emma in the chair with pillows for support, then carefully placed James in her arms. Emma stared at her brother with complete focus, memorizing his face. "Hi, James. I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you about dinosaurs and how to do cartwheels and which kids at school are mean." She looked up at Lucas and Victoria. "Is he going to be okay? He looks kind of squished." Victoria laughed through exhausted tears. "He's going to be fine. Better than fine." "Good, because I already love him." They brought James home 3 days later to a house that had transformed into something none of them had planned, but all of them needed. Lucas's apartment was long gone, his furniture integrated into Victoria's space in ways that made everything theirs instead of hers or his. The first weeks were chaos. James didn't sleep, which meant no one slept. He cried for reasons they couldn't decipher. Victoria sobbed at 2 a.m., convinced she was failing at motherhood, while Lucas walked James in circles and Emma tried to help by singing lullabies. "I don't know what I'm doing," Victoria said one particularly rough night. "None of us do," Lucas said. "We just keep trying." "What if I damage him? What if I'm too cold or too distant or—" "Victoria, look at me." Lucas shifted James to one arm and pulled Victoria close with the other. "You're here. You're trying. You're exhausted and scared and showing up anyway. That's not failing. That's exactly what love looks like." Slowly, impossibly, they found their rhythm. James started sleeping in longer stretches. Victoria learned to trust her instincts. Emma appointed herself chief baby entertainer, making faces until James smiled his first real smile at 6 weeks. Lane and Reed Design grew alongside their family. Their first major project broke ground in May, a sustainable residential development that incorporated green spaces and community gardens. Victoria managed client relationships and design oversight, while Lucas handled the technical details and construction coordination. They worked from home when they could, brought James to the office when they couldn't, learned to conduct meetings with a baby sleeping in a bassinet nearby. Emma did homework at the conference table, sometimes offering unsolicited input on client presentations. "That house needs more windows," she'd say, studying renderings. "Windows make people happy." More often than not, she was right. By James's first birthday, Lane and Reed had completed 3 projects and had 5 more in development. They'd been featured in architectural magazines, won a sustainability award, built a reputation for designs that prioritized people over profit. They celebrated James's birthday at the office, surrounded by clients who'd become friends and friends who'd become family. Emma had baked a cake with Victoria, decorated with carefully piped dinosaurs. James smashed his face into it with gleeful abandon, getting frosting in his hair and making everyone laugh. Lucas found Victoria on the office balcony they'd added last fall, watching the sunset paint the city gold. "Hey," he said, handing her a glass of wine. "You okay?" "Just thinking." "About?" "About a year ago. About being in labor and terrified and convinced I was going to ruin everything." Victoria sipped her wine. "About how wrong I was." "You didn't ruin anything." "I know, I built something instead." She gestured toward the office, where James was being passed between guests, and Emma was explaining the finer points of dinosaur biology to anyone who'd listen. "We built something." Lucas pulled her close, this woman who'd gone from his boss to his wife to the mother of his child. "Best thing I ever built." "The business?" "The family." Victoria kissed him, soft and certain, while inside their office their children laughed and their business thrived and their future stretched out in possibilities they were brave enough to reach for. "I love you," Victoria said. "I love you too. Think we can keep this going? The business, the family, all of it?" Lucas thought about that night with the pregnancy test, about the fear and the uncertainty and the choice to show up anyway. He thought about Victoria at the podium, choosing truth, about Emma pushing a girl who insulted her father, about James learning to smile. "Yeah," he said, "I think we can." And they did. Not perfectly, not without struggles or setbacks or moments of doubt, but they showed up for each other, day after impossible day, building a life from broken pieces and brave choices. Emma graduated from elementary school with honors, gave a speech about family that made Victoria cry. James took his first steps in the office, walking between drafting tables with Lucas hovering nearby. Victoria and Lucas expanded Lane and Reed to include 2 associate architects and a small support staff. They built homes for other families while building their own. They fought and reconciled and learned that love wasn't about perfect moments, but about choosing each other in imperfect ones. Years later, standing in an office they'd created from nothing, surrounded by children who'd taught them how to be brave, Lucas and Victoria would look at each other and know they'd done the impossible. They'd built a life worth living. And they'd done it together. The end.